Good morning, everyone. Before we start our talk for today, I would like to do a very quick experiment with you. Are you ready? Yes. Let's get started. Please, I would like you to close your eyes. Imagine that, with your eyes closed, you are still the same person, with your own personality. You still have the same idea, knowledge, values, and even the same abilities.
Every child has the right to education, we all say. But do we really know what it means and how it can be achieved? Imagine a world where every child, regardless of gender, race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and disability, can walk into a classroom feeling valued, understood, and empowered to learn. That word is possible. That word is possible only if we implement inclusive education. We are here today to share our experience and fully dissect inclusive education.
We were born visually impaired. This doesn't mean that other senses are amplified, as some might think. However, the idea is simply that in order to cope with our disability and in order to live our life in the best way possible, we've learned to compensate with other senses. For example, and simply from our daily life, we can know who's the person talking to us through their voice rather than their appearance. We can know what's the food in front of us simply by smelling it, not looking at it. At school, we used our sense of touch to read Braille, and now we use our screen reader.
Fortunately, we weren't taken from our home. We weren't separated and placed in a special school. Instead, we attended an inclusive school. We learned in the same classroom side by side with our sighted peers. We had the same opportunities to engage with all subjects on an equal basis with our sighted classmates. And this made all the difference, not just academically, but socially and personally. Being part of an inclusive environment enables us to interact with the world, form friendships, and grow as individuals. And now we are lucky to be in LAU inclusive community.
Inclusion is not just a preference or a nice idea. It's the best approach to be implemented. Why? Simply because it guarantees quality education for everyone. For example, one of my friends was surprised when I told her that we take geometry in school simply as our sighted classmates. All children with disability have the right to inclusive education. This isn't just my belief. However, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which was signed by around 164 countries, emphasized the importance of inclusive education. So, inclusion is the only way, because a child shouldn't be taken from their homes and community, shouldn't be separated from their parents, siblings, relatives, and friends to go to special institutions just because they have a disability. Instead, they have the right, all the right, to live in the same home with their siblings, to go with them to the same school, and to learn in the same class with their sighted classmates. One of my friends who's visually impaired and who learned in a special school once shared with me her experience and told me, "I wished my parents took a different decision when I was young. The fact that I have to go away from them just because I have a disability was too painful for me." Now, the big question is, what can we do to implement inclusive education? It's not that hard. Let's start by what each and every individual in any society can do. Mr. Amir Makarim, a person who I really respect and who's been working on inclusion for 30 consecutive years, once told me, "It's important that people perceive individuals just as individuals, not defined by their disability." Societies are full of stereotypes and stigma. And when it comes to disability, I can give you as many examples as you can imagine. There's that belief that eye contact is required for a person to be able to participate in debates and discussions and to share ideas. Although being able to make eye contact or no has nothing to do with the value of ideas, but there's that belief. Others might think that persons with disabilities are always dependent. They need help and they can't be productive on their own. Here, I will sadly say that just mentioning on a CV or job application that this person has a certain form of disability might limit the opportunities of being selected for an interview. You might ask me why? Simply because they see the disability before seeing the person himself or herself. I agree that sometimes we need help, okay, but there are many persons with disabilities that are financially independent and they are productive on their own. I can also share with you a personal experience that clearly reflects stereotypes and stigma, especially the idea of mixing disabilities together. One day, I went hiking. Someone there told me, "Are you sure that you won't be tired, Jana? Because we're gonna walk for 2 hours." Although there's no connection between being visually impaired and feeling tired, there's that belief. I'm not saying that everyone thinks this way, of course not. But stereotypes and stigma are there in any society. So why not move away from those stereotypes and treat individuals just as individuals, nothing else?
Persons with disabilities form about 15% of the world population, 1 billion people, as mentioned by the CRPD. This means that persons with disabilities are part of every society. When given the chance to reach their full potentials, everyone benefits. Education is the starting point. On the macro level, why not every educational institution from school to university be inclusive? Inclusion is not just about accepting the enrollment of students with disabilities. It's also about working on the institution itself to be inclusive. Why not collaborate with the Ministry of Education and Higher Education to provide assistive devices and training for the faculty members on inclusion? Why not adopt the Universal Design for Learning, UDL? UDL is about designing learning environments flexible enough to accommodate all learners. UDL supports learners of all abilities. It offers diverse ways to access content, engage with it, and express what's learned. UDL supports all learners and ensures that no one is left behind. Small but meaningful steps can be taken to make the material accessible. An example is ensuring that PDFs are actual PDFs, not images. And we know that nowadays technology is evolving, so even if there is images, platforms and resources could be recommended to help make graphics accessible. Here, I would like to share bits of my experience at LAU. When telling my friends that I'm gonna register the clinical assessment course, some advised me not to do so. They complained that it contains a lot of graphs, images, and charts that I won't be able to access. Upon emailing the instructor, he expressed his willingness to make the course accessible. And now I'm taking the course and he's working hard to make the material, all the material, accessible. He's also providing helpful resources. So all this is allowing me to fully engage in the class and learn in an inclusive, welcoming, and supportive environment. Also, once in my class of teaching diverse learners, there was an activity that involves catching balloons before they reach the ground. Easy for my sighted friends. But the instructor was aware that there's another student who need other sense other than the sense of sight. She thought of how she can include me in the activity. She placed bells inside the balloons. The bells make sound, enabling me to participate in the activity like everyone else. Another example is when my neuroscience instructor gets the brain drawing in Braille and the brain model from the lab for me to touch it, get the brain structure and the other ideas.
Inclusion is when my instructors explain all tables and charts for me. Inclusion is when my Com203 instructor explains body language, and if needed, she just moves beside me, moves my hands, my shoulders, and my head, just to make sure that I'll be able to get all skills related to public speaking and body language, just as my sighted classmates. Inclusion is also when my physics teacher, when I was in grade 11, used to describe all graphs for me. That year, we were learning online, and it was really challenging for me to go and get the Braille graphs because of COVID-19 pandemic. So, just based on my teacher's explanation and description, I was able enough to imagine the graphs, understand all concepts, and solve the exercises.
Inclusion is also when my physics and chemistry teacher in grade 9 used to draw the brain structure and atoms in Braille. So, that's true inclusion, ensuring that students truly belong. Why not establish in every institution a dedicated special team or center to work on inclusion? Imagine what can this team make. Why not provide the books in the library in accessible format? Why not place numbers in Braille on the doors of every class and the elevators? Why not add voiceover to the elevators in all buildings so that visually impaired students know in which floor they are?
Why not implement a program to train visually impaired students navigate campus alone, more independently? As a visually impaired student at LAU for 3 years, I am lucky enough to have a very supportive and helpful group of friends. They are always here to help me, go from class to another, go to the library, or in anything else. But there are some times when I wish I'd be able to navigate campus alone, more independently, simply as I can do in our home, in our relatives' homes, friends' homes, even in the building where I live. Small but meaningful steps like these can really make a change. Building a future where education is truly for all shapes not only better students, but a better world. So let's together, hand in hand, build a future where every institution is inclusive and where every child has the right to education. Norman Kunk once says, "The idea that ability leads to opportunity needs to be reversed. Give people opportunity, it will lead to ability." Thanks for listening.
Thank you.